we are finally here. We've learned some theory, we've learned about keys, we've learned about chords, we've learned about scales, we've learned about how they all interrelate. We've even learned how to read music. So, nothing more to do, let's start making some music. If you remember, we are here to produce 3 pieces of video game music that can accompany a video game that's a little bit retro, reminiscent of the 1980s games consoles, arcade games. We need to produce 3 pieces of music, one for the introductory screen of the game when the game first starts, another whilst the game is being played, and a third one for the end of the game, okay? We're going to start now with the main theme. Let's hop over into BandLab. So I am in my home screen for BandLab, and we've done this a few times now, so I just click Create. New project. And wait for it to load. Now, I am going to use a drum machine in this, so I'm going to click Drum Machine. And there we go. And it brings up my drum machine. So let's talk a little bit about the drum machine. First thing I'm going to do is delete all these little dots because I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to put most of them in again in a second, but just to explain what's going on and how to get going. Okay, so what am I saying? I've got to do my housekeeping first. I'm going to call this main theme because this is the main theme that's going to be playing when the player is playing the game. I'm going to leave it at 120, definitely 4/4, and we are in the key of C major, which is down here. Okay, that's that done. There are going to be 4 components to this particular track. There's going to be a percussion track, which I'm going to make with the drum machine. There's going to be some chords. There's going to be a melody, and there's going to be a bass line. So there are going to be 4 separate tracks up here. You can do as many as you want, and you've learned enough now to be independent. And I will say that now, if at any point you just want to branch off and do your own thing, please feel free. I'm going to start with the percussion track. We're just going to do a basic one to start with, and then we'll mess about with it. If you look up here, you'll see we're in 4/4 time, and you'll remember from our theory section that means 4 beats to the bar, and a quarter note gets a beat. Our 4 beats are represented by these alternate grey and darker grey sections. And what we'll do first is we'll get our cymbal going. So if you go over here, you'll see this red symbol of a cymbal, and that's the closed hi-hat. You can listen to what they sound like by simply pressing the corresponding keys. They might be different on your keyboard, depending on where you are in the world, how your keyboard's set up. But that's the sound of, that's the key of O on my keyboard. So if I want to listen to my closed hi-hat, that's my closed hi-hat, and my open hi-hat is 9. So I just go. So we're going to have 2 hi-hats per beat. So if we divide the beat into 4, the first measure and the third measure is going to have a hi-hat, and that's just going to keep going throughout our drum groove. First and the third, first and the third. If you want to hear at any time what you're working on, just move over there and press play. Okay, that's good so far. Next thing I'm going to do is use my bass drum down here. So that's S on my keyboard. Sorry, that's they're calling that the kick drum. Yeah, that's what it's called, but it's our lowest bass drum. That's what it sounds like. And I'm going to put the bass drum on the first and the third beats. And I've put it, you'll see both times, in the first measure of the first and the third beats. So now let's have a listen. Okay, now it's still a bit boring, isn't it? So let's get a snare drum going. Typically, for your basic drum groove, you would go bass drum on the first and the third, and snare on the second and fourth beats, and that should sound a bit more like a familiar drum groove now. Yeah, so that's your basic drum groove, Nate. So you can just work on that, change little bits, add little bits, remove little bits, just to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm just going to make my drum groove a little bit more interesting by changing my bass drum a little bit. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to put that one on the final measure of the second beat. Then on the third beat, I'm going to put my bass drum on the third measure. And finally, I'm going to put another bass drum on the final measure of the final beat. So the final one and the first one will play really close to each other. And this is what it sounds like. Okay, and that's my first pattern done. So let's do another one. You'll see here we have the capacity to produce 8 different drum grooves. We can actually produce more than that by just adding more drum machines by clicking on Add Track, add another drum machine. Then we get another 8 choices. But just to practice what we've just been doing, let's add one more drum groove. I'm going to click on B. And I'm going to start, if you remember, I'm just going to follow the same method as before, putting my hi-hat in. I'm going to use my closed hi-hat again on the first and the third measures of every beat. Now I go down to my kick drum, and I'm just going to go first measure of beat 1, first measure of beat 2. Then I'm going to go snare, first measure of beat 2, first measure of beat 4. I might have said beat 2 for that. Of course, I meant beat 3. So we've got this kick drum on 1 and 3, snare drum 2 and 4. This is our basic groove. Now let's just mess with it a bit. Put another bass drum there. So that's the third measure of the third beat. And again, I'll put one right at the end. So we get the last one and the first one playing really close to each other. Let's put an extra snare drum there. That'll be good. And I'm going to add a bit of a floor tom, and that's going to be on the first beat and the third measure of the first beat. Let's try it. Okay, that'll do us. When I want to add my drum groove to our main track, I simply click this button here. You'll notice it's added A, and it's added 4 bars of A and 4 bars of B. That's from the sort of preset that it has when you first start it up. So it's done that for us. I'm just going to just show you what's happening. Delete that. So it's already selected. If it isn't, I just mouse over it and click once, and I'll delete that. When I want to add my drum groove, I just go at B. And it's added it over there, hasn't it? Do you know why it's done that? When I want to add my drum groove, I move my playhead to where I want it to go, and it kind of snaps. So if you move it over the beginning of a bar, kind of snaps into place there. And you just select the one you want. So I've only got A and B. I'm going to use B. I'm going to add it. Okay. So that's 1 bar of B. I want 4 bars of B. So move the playhead. I'm just clicking once. 4 bars of B. I'm going to move the playhead right to the end of that, and I'm going to shift click all of these. I'm going to do Control C, Control V, and it moves them to my playhead. I think we want at least 30 seconds of music, so I'm going to go to bar 16. We're at 120 BPM, so by my calculations, that's 2 seconds per bar. So that should give us 32 seconds of music. We'll see how we go with that. So select. You're going to have to shift select because there's 4 of them. mouse over the middle, Control C, Control V, it moves them to the playhead. So we have got 4 bars of A, and then the rest of the piece is B. That kind of suggests to me that A is going to be the intro, and then B is going to be the main theme. Okay? Now, this is a piece of music which is designed to loop. It's just designed to go on and on whilst the player is playing. So to make it loop, I have my tool up here, and it says cycle. So I'll click that, and it highlights this red section here. So what we want to do is mouse the red section over the end of the red section until the arrow becomes that shape. Click, and then just drag it out. Drag it out. Mouse to the 2 arrows, click, drag it to the end of the piece. Now, I'm going to click this, go to the beginning, put my playhead at the beginning, there it goes, and let's just hear what 16 bars of our drum groove sounds like. Okay, that sounds all right. I didn't play the full 16 bars just to save time, but you can do that. All right, so that's our drum groove done. Let's do the next thing, which I think will be the chords.